Hey everyone, Rob here, and this is another installment of From the Archives. This show originally aired April 10th, 2021, and it's where Matt and I reviewed The Last Waltz, which was the band, and it was a Martin Scorsese documentary. I think it was only his fifth or sixth film at the time, in 1976. And it documented the band's original lineup, their last concert together. The band did go on and perform with various other members as the band. This originally aired with, at the end of this, it was a top 10 list from 1976. I have taken that out. So all you will hear is our review of The Last Waltz. And not to be confused, I went by the name of Jim, and Matt went by the name of Mike. It used to be Jim and Mike Talk Music. So sit back and enjoy From the Archives, The Last Waltz. So today we're going to talk about a concert film that we watched, a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called The Last Waltz. And it's a film about a band called The Band.
Right. So our focus today, Jim, is going to be on 1976, going back 45 years.
The band was popular, of course, back in the 70s. I don't think into the 80s. You know, maybe you haven't heard of the band.
But I'm wondering if our listeners could name 3 songs. Just 3 songs. That's all I'm asking for. Not a dozen, not 10.
I don't know if I can name 2.
Right. And that's, as we were exploring this, that's what I come up with. I named 2, and I couldn't even name a third song by the well-known band, The Band. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, so then after I heard some, I knew them, but actually naming them. So listeners, I challenge you right now to come up with 3 titles by The Band.
Let's give you a little background on the band. The band, it was a Canadian-American rock group. They were formed in Toronto, Ontario, in 1967. They were originally the backing band for Ronnie Hawkins and later Bob Dylan. The group released a debut album, Music from Big Pink. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And that was in 1968 to critical acclaim. Ronnie Hawkins had a band called The Hawk. When they became the band, Ronnie, I guess, decided not to continue with them, but I guess continue with the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, The Last Waltz, Ronnie Hawkins does show up for one of the performances.
As do many other people you're going to mention in just a little bit, yeah.
So the band consisted of 4 Canadians and 1 American. Rick Danko, he played bass guitar and fiddle. Garth Hudson, he was on keyboards, accordion, saxophone. Richard Manuel, keyboards, drums, vocals. Robbie Robertson, which you may have heard of because he had a solo career that went pretty well.
Very good. I love his first solo album.
And Levon Helm, which went on to a solo career. He played drums, vocals, mandolin, guitar. So they were pretty well versed in different instruments. I think they could switch off and on of them.
And talking about their musical style, because some of our listeners, especially those who are younger than us, just wondering about that musical style. You're looking at. I have a question for you, Jim. The word jam band. Where do you think that comes from? Where does jam come from?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I just had this epiphany. Okay, I didn't read this anywhere, but I'm just 2 blocks from the studio here in Washington, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to the band, and one of the songs, it says, "Come on down to the jamboree." I'm like, the jamboree. They would have jamborees, and at the jamborees, these musicians would jam. They're not just like song. No, they're there to jam. Yeah. So I'm thinking that jam, as in jam band, comes from jamboree.
Okay.
Yeah. Just this is my epiphany, and if I'm wrong, listeners, you can write in and correct me.
Well, I was thinking like jelly jam. Has a lot of things.
Well, that's interesting. So for some listeners who don't know about jam bands, but picture where this is in time, and they are kind of a jam band. Some people would equate them to Grateful Dead and some other bands that you might list, Jim, and Fish. So I can hear, that Fish and the Grateful Dead would go along with these guys. But you have to think of what was going on. Progressive rock, hard rock, disco is starting. Disco is getting into full swing. Pretty interesting time.
So back to Ronnie Hawkins. He was actually a rockabilly singer.
Wow.
In the mid-'60s, he gained recognition backing Bob Dylan, and the 1966 tour was notable as Dylan's first with an electric band.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
So basically, I think the band got their name because when they toured with Bob Dylan, they were known as Bob Dylan and the Band. In the movie, they mention other names.
Right.
They might have called themselves.
Yeah. Did you want to?
One was the Crackers.
Yeah. Well, I just wondered where that guy's getting it from. I think he's looking at how their band compares to other bands. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I want to say the word racially, but his choices were the Honkies or the Crackers. That's the two that I mentioned. So I just don't know where what he was.
Well, he was also on something. So
that's right. That's right. If you see the concert film and interspersed with interviews, you will see Wild Man. I just call him Wild Man.
Yeah.
He's definitely on something when he says that.
I mean, I think they had kind of a country flavor to them, sort of like Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Right.
Bands like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd called Music from the Big Pink the second most influential record in the history of rock and roll. I don't know what the first was.
Oh, I have to guess the first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now the group was inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame in 1989 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2004, Rolling Stone ranked the band 50th on its list of 100 greatest artists of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you've guessed, the three songs or if you could come up, but the most famous song, I think, is called The Wait.
Yeah. And, it's kind of like that title, The Core. You know the song, but you don't know the title.
Yeah.
The Core, The Wait. So people don't know it by the title, The Wait.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Take a load off Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
Take a load for free.
Yeah.
That song.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is they mentioned Nazareth.
Yeah, the opening line. Yeah,
drove into Nazareth.
Feeling about a half past dead.
So when I was younger, I didn't think Nazareth was Nazareth, Pennsylvania, nearby where Mike and I grew up, and also home to Martin Guitar. But it is, in fact, Nazareth, Pennsylvania they're talking about.
Right, and written specifically for that. And since it is someone from the South going up, it could be kind of a pilgrimage to Martin Guitars. Yeah, it could be a song about a pilgrimage to visit Martin Guitars.
Yeah, it's written in first person about a traveler's experience arriving, visiting, and departing a town called Nazareth.
Yeah.
And according to Robertson, this is based on Nazareth, Pennsylvania, because it was home of Martin Guitars. So we're going to get into the movie. The movie was directed by Martin Scorsese.
And this was before he was really well known, is that right?
Yeah, I don't think he was well known. He also was assistant director to Woodstock, and I think he was also one of the editors of the movie.
Right, and as we were talking before, I was thinking that maybe Woodstock would be a little less choreographed, and this one, more thrown together, with pieces of this and that. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted with Woodstock, but this one, I think it comes together more, more cohesively as a production.
Even though Martin Scorsese wasn't well known at this point, believe it or not, it was his 15th film.
Okay, so he was known among the film circles, yeah.
And it was his fourth documentary. Now, this was filmed on November 25th, 1976, which was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And it didn't come out until April 26, 1978.
Yeah, there's reasons for that.
So Scorsese, he was working on his film New York, New York, which was released in 1977. And this was before his eyebrows grew in. I don't know if you knew that. No, he had just turned 34.
Yeah. It's like a late puberty kind of thing.
But he does talk fast like he does now. But you don't get the full Martin Scorsese effect.
Yeah. He had considered putting the fake eyebrows, the bushy.
Yeah, I think he was thinking about it.
He hadn't done that yet.
The film starts when you first watch the movie. You'll see the words, "This movie should be played loud."
Mm-hmm.
And you see Rick Danko. He's playing pool. He's playing a game called Cutthroat. He says, "Keep your balls on the table. Everybody else is off." And I don't know if this is a comment on the band itself.
Yeah,
maybe to only worry about yourself and not others, you know? I don't know. Now, the movie starts with the encore.
Right, so it starts with the very end, like the punchline, and then it goes back.
Yeah.
After the encore is done, it goes right to the beginning chronologically.
Called "Don't You Do It." And then after the first song, we see people standing outside, and it's the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
We see a little bit of the town, the streets, and, you know, a line of people trying to get in.
Right, right.
Now, it's a series of interviews with various band members, which are like backstage. Martin Scorsese also goes to Shangri-La Studios. That's where they would record in Malibu, California. Rick Rubin bought this studio in 2019. Robbie Robertson at one point makes a comment that it used to be a brothel. He says something about the wallpaper.
Yeah.
I know that's exciting.
Well, it was exciting for him to consider what was going on there before.
They talk about the beginnings of the band, some stories, people they encountered. One that's kind of gross is a blues singer who he said was playing harmonica and he was spitting blood into a bucket. His name was Sonny Boy Williamson, and he apparently died like a year or two later.
Yeah.
They talk about the Skyline Lounge. This was pretty funny because it's some. He didn't say it was a small place, but he said there were only 3 people there. There were 2 drunken waiters and a go-go dancer with one arm.
Mm.
And he said a fight.
No pole dancing.
No, I don't think you can pole dance with one arm.
No.
And a fight broke out. So he was kind of amused by that. There were only 3 people in the place. What I noticed is Richard Manuel, he is like the most strung out in this. He kind of rambles on a little bit. He tells a story about buying bread in a grocery store and shoving bologna down his pants.
Talking about how poor they were and needing to get food. Right, that's right.
He's kind of a cross between Frank Zappa and Ted Nugent, I think. They look like they're having fun, though.
Yeah.
And basically, this movie is about Robbie Robertson wanting to not tour anymore and only be a recording band, which the Beatles did towards the end.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was a time of ending this great thing that we're doing before it goes bad.
Yeah.
You know, shows, sitcoms and such, you know, drama on TV. They're looking, the writers and producers are looking for that sweet time where it's time to put it to rest before it goes bad.
Yeah, like Seinfeld.
Yeah, all those. Yeah, I think they were doing that. I think the band was doing that.
All of them were pretty much doing drugs in this film. It's reported that Neil Young had white powder on his nose.
That's right.
When he was on stage, and they kind of blurred it out for the film. What I found is that I wasn't so much interested in the band, but the people that showed up. Because this is a moment in time. Some of these people were very well known. They became even bigger later on.
And it could have been people they were friends with as well known, right? Not just getting friends and not just getting well-known people.
Yeah.
But, you know, connecting with, you know, hey, it'd be great to have you. Would you want to sing this song or this one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it started out, they were just going to have 1 or 2 people, and then other people wanted to be a part of it. But I think it's incredible that Neil Young could play and sing.
Yeah.
After snorting coke.
Right, right. They talked about him definitely doing a lot of coke before he went out.
Yeah.
I read that. Yeah.
And he does the song Helpless. Joni Mitchell is in the back on the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a September 2020 NME interview,
New Musical Express.
Yeah, Robbie Robertson says that if there was anything wrong with The Last Waltz, it was that the cocaine wasn't very good.
And that was just said recently.
Neither one of us were big band fan. I mean, we knew the songs. I think Up on Cripple Creek was another one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd hear these on the radio, but I wasn't buying albums by them.
And pretty much Up on Cripple Creek and The Wait are the only ones that really get airplay.
Yeah.
To this day, in this year.
And they're sung by Levon Helm. What I got out of this movie is I really found a new appreciation for Rick Danko.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an interesting voice. The song Makes No Difference, which is in the beginning of the film. It's a great song, and you have a great sax solo by Garth Hudson. Now, some of the people that showed up, Joni Mitchell, she's singing Coyote about some strung out guy she's hanging out with.
Calling him a coyote.
Muddy Waters, Mannish Boy. Just love that song. Now, Muddy Waters, he almost wasn't in the film. He was there. He did the song. But apparently there was a lot of confusion with changing film.
Right. There was a change early on from, I think it was something like 16 millimeter to 36 millimeter. I forget the exact. But going from 1 or 2 cameras to 7. So there was this change, right? Even in process. Yeah. So I think it had to do with that.
I mean, I can understand a performer maybe doing 2 songs and they cut one. If you're there to perform and be part of this, like why you would not want to film one person, I don't know his name, but he didn't get the message to stop filming and actually film Muddy Waters doing Mannish Boy, and that ended up in the movie.
Yeah, and it was a good rendition. I think you could have so many people, so many guests, that the person making decisions, Scorsese or producers, directors, could make that decision because they're not a fan of Muddy Waters, they're not a fan of the blues, or so they could not care, because you've mentioned so many people. I mean, so many people well known were joining the band on this night.
Well, I'm going to tell you about more. Eric Clapton, who I love, he does Further Up the Road. Great blues jam on this one. Then we got Neil Diamond shows up. Dry Your Eyes, that's the song. Dry your eyes, take your song out.
There you go.
What was that?
Hey, but before you go further, Clapton, I was reading that Clapton grabs his guitar and as he's about to play his solo or start the song, the strap comes off. And so he looks out and looks over and says, "Take it, Robbie." And Robbie just went right into it. Yeah, so the strap popped off, and he had to play with his guitar a little bit, get it back on again. Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me Neil Diamond ran out on stage and helped him. But no,
if it was it Neil Diamond? Was it? It could have been a lookalike. It could have been somebody else. Was Neil Diamond there? Because listen to the people that you're telling me were there, okay? And then you throw in Neil Diamond. Yeah. I mean, come on. Be serious.
Now we have something about Neil Diamond in this performance.
I just don't know. Call it a conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that he was actually there. Like, if we had him here today, what would he say? That's the kind of thing I'm wondering.
So Neil Diamond comes out. He introduces his song by saying, "I'm only going to do one song." That's what he says.
But it's going to be good.
But it's going to be good. Neil Diamond's appearance was not popular with all the other performers.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Neil Diamond, but just by what he's wearing, he's wearing sunglasses and he's got this suit on that looks like he bought it at Kmart.
Yeah. The rest probably aren't wearing suits. I mean, it's, this, I don't know. Some are, they're all dressed all differently.
But I think he came across as maybe a little pretentious. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And there is a rumor that claims that Neil Diamond came off stage and he remarked to Dylan, "Follow that." To which Dylan responded, "What do I have to do? Go on stage and fall asleep?" End quote. And that was actually Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
so we don't know if that actually happened or not. I think later they said, no, we were just joking around. I wouldn't say something like that. Neil Diamond said, I wouldn't say follow that or top that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The connection here with Neil Diamond is Robbie Robertson. I think he produced an album of his before this.
Yeah. So
he knew Neil. We got Van Morrison singing a song Caravan. He's at his prime here. He is a little pudgy still. And he's looking, I noticed this, he's looking like a young John McCain. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Of course, we got Bob Dylan, Forever Young, which people might be familiar with the Rod Stewart version, which is interesting because Rod Stewart wrote Forever Young, but somehow it sounded like Dylan's version, and I guess he played it for Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan's got writing credits on the Rod Stewart song. Because I think he was...
So they compromised. They kind of came together and...
Yeah, I think he was afraid he was... he changed the lyrics.
It's not the same song. It's just changed lyrics a little bit, yeah.
It has the same maybe chord progression, and, it sounds really similar. So maybe he's afraid of getting sued by Bob Dylan.
Now, was Ringo Starr actually there? What?
Ringo somehow shows up, maybe uninvited, at the end.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's playing drums. That's for the last song where they're... Not the very last song, but the song where they all come out.
Yeah.
And they sing together.
Yeah. He could have been hiding behind the curtain right there the whole time. I bet you he was. Just listening in.
I'd like to be a part of this. That's what he said.
Yeah, yeah.
The oddest thing I found about this movie...
Yeah.
Is a guy comes out, he's a poet.
Oh, yes, yes.
And he does...
Who is this guy?
Yeah. He does the Lord's Prayer, but he changes the words. Like, who has the balls? Before I found out, I was going to comment that, he's going to go to hell. Now, the guy did die, but believe it or not, he passed away February 22nd of this year at the age of 101.
So he lived very long after saying those words.
And his name was Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Yeah.
Jim, I can't remember the exact emphasis of the word changes. Do you remember what he was trying to...
I wish I did.
Yeah. So, listeners, you'll have to look into that yourself, trying to figure out what Ferlinghetti was saying.
So the concert jumps from interview to performance. Now, I noticed in the beginning they rarely show the crowd. It's like dark. But,
oh, yeah.
But then I didn't know not all the performances were with a live audience. Like, you have the feeling that it's at the Winterland Ballroom.
Right.
They're performing in front of the audience the whole time, but they aren't. They're performing in different areas, or one looks like a soundstage.
Yeah.
This was before social distancing. People are sitting back for some reason. And that's the one where Emmylou Harris sings Evangeline. Yeah, it looks like they're on a soundstage. Some people are milling about in the background.
I see a correction here, and I'm jumping right in here, but this is about the filming. I was a millimeter off, I believe, but it started out with the 16 millimeter and went to the 35 millimeter. Yeah. A little correction on the size for you photography aficionados.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the concert ends with the theme from The Last Waltz, where they're on stage, no audience, and Robbie Robertson is playing an odd instrument called the guitar harp. It's part guitar, part harp. It's almost like a double-neck guitar, but the other neck is a harp.
I remember now, very strange, yeah. There was a lot of experimentation, with progressive rock, just really pushing the boundaries of what a band is, what a rock band is. So they were doing a lot of this experiment, more than they are now, or a decade ago, really experimenting and making up instruments.
I wasn't really impressed with the film. I don't think Mike and I were blown away. It's more of a showcase of the band's work up until that point. And some of the great artists they met, along the way. Showcases their talents and songs. Overall, I wouldn't say it's a great concert film. I mean, even the interviews are kind of sporadic.
I think it was good at its time. And as I read some reviews here, Jim, it's interesting how it doesn't hold up as well over time. You've got a review right after it, and you got it reviewed a couple decades later. Now, here we are 45 years later. The Chicago Tribune said it's the greatest rock concert movie ever made and maybe the best rock movie, period. So this was right after it happened. The Detroit Free Press said one of the great movie rock experiences. Another one said it's the greatest concert film ever shot. Things like that. So positive at first, but then we do have Roger Ebert. This is in 2002. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars in 2002. But I want to read some of that. It kind of, we respect Siskel and Ebert. This is the man. So he says, quote, the overall tenor of The Last Waltz suggests survivors at the end of their ropes. They dress in dark, cheerless clothes, hide behind their beards, hats, and shades, and pound out rote performances of old hits. Don't seem to smile much at all at each other as they make their music. Then he says they look tired of it. These are not musicians at the top of their art, but laborers on the last day of the job. Wow, end quote. I think at the time there was nothing like it. Yeah. Like who else says, hey, instead of the band breaking up like everybody does, fighting about money and things like that, let's come together and rock this out, and then of course bring in some celebrity and bring in some friends, you know. And so I think it was something really different, and so boom, it was something really different.
Let's go out on a high note.
Yeah, literally.
No pun intended.
So I think that's what it was. But as Jim and I finished watching it, like Jim just said, I wasn't wowed. I've been more wowed at a concert or maybe at another movie, like my new fave, A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
I was wowed, and so when we got done watching, we said, oh, okay, that's historical, that's interesting. And I was also comment on this, Jim, I was also trying to get a feel for the musicians as they were playing, as they were done. There was a restraint. It wasn't an excitement. It wasn't a sadness. I couldn't feel something from them. What do you think about that? Like watching it near the end, did you feel that they were?
Well, I think most people didn't agree with Robbie Robertson's decision.
To do what they were doing.
Yeah, they still wanted to continue touring.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
And I think most of them, especially Levon Helm, wasn't real happy with the film, the way the film came out.
All right.
Almost like they were being forced into doing this. Mm-hmm. Because then they did go on to tour after this film.
So they weren't done.
And I'll get into that in a little bit here. There's nothing in this film that's like mind-blowing. Even anything that the band has to say, you get a little bit of feel for a little bit of the history, but nothing you're going to get from this film and say you're going to know exactly who they are, who these people are.
Right,
other than that they're in the band. Plus, they're all coked up in the film.
Right, right.
I'd say if you've never heard many songs from the band, or even have seen them perform, I know you can go on YouTube and stuff. Actually, you can go on YouTube and watch parts of this film. I'd say watch the film just to see it. I think we decided to watch this because it was deemed as one of the best concert movies, which I don't think it is. Now, we have a friend, a mutual friend. I'll say his first name. His name is Victor. He posted on Facebook the other night that he's seen this film 100 times.
So he loves it. He obviously loves it.
Yeah, and maybe he is a huge fan of the band, obviously.
Shout out to you, Victor. Keep watching.
Yeah. I don't know any movie I've watched 100 times, but I can think of some movies that I'd watch over and over, but this is not one of them. Now, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5, mainly for the music and variety of the other artists that join them on stage, but nothing much more. So I have a couple more things about the movie. During post-production, the live recording was altered to clean it up a little bit. The mistakes, out-of-tune singing, bad horn balance. And again, this film was filmed in 1976 on Thanksgiving. They apparently gave out turkey dinner.
Turkey?
Yeah. To the
Swanson's? The TV dinners?
I don't know. I guess, a huge turkey dinner for everybody. Or maybe they threw turkey that was cut out of the film, to the audience.
Kind of a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing with the meat flying.
So here's a little bit about Bob Dylan. While Bob Dylan had agreed to perform in concert, he did not want his appearance filmed because he feared it would distract from his own film project, Ronaldo and Clara. So Warner Brothers had agreed to finance the filming of The Last Waltz with the understanding that Dylan would be involved in the film and soundtrack. He only wanted his performance on the soundtrack.
Not on film, so audio only is, I think, what he wanted, right. Mm-hmm.
And it said backstage negotiations took place during an intermission.
Yeah.
Robbie Robertson assured Dylan that the concert film's release would be delayed until after his film. And with that, Dylan relented and agreed to be filmed. So Dylan found out this isn't going to be released soon. I don't know if they told him like 2 years later. Promoter Bill Graham was also... Is that Billy Graham?
No, it's different.
Promoter Bill Graham was involved in the talks. Somebody's working with Bob said, "We're not filming this." And Bill just said, "Get out of here or I'll kill you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little tense.
So Dylan, obviously they kept him in the film.
So, Jim, I think this really has something to do with what I was saying. They don't look like they're having a great time. If you've got, maybe not actual death threats, but, you've got negotiations going on during the filming of it, it's tense. If I had to be working on whether I'm going to be filmed or not and about money, I'd be tense. And so I feel it comes out a little bit. The music's there, but I think that feel comes out a little bit.
Yeah. Now, Levon Helm later wrote about The Last Waltz in his autobiography, This Wheel's on Fire, in which he made the case that it had been primarily Robbie Robertson's project and that Robertson had forced the band's breakup on the rest of the group. So there it is. Mm-hmm. Robertson offered a different take in a 1986 interview. He said, "I made my big statement. I did the movie. I made a 3-record album about it. And if this is only my statement, not theirs, I'll accept that." They're saying, well, that was really his trip, not our trip. Mm-hmm. Well, fine. I'll take the best music film that's ever been made and make it my statement. I don't have any problems with that, none at all. So the original quintet would perform together one last time. Mm-hmm. After the late set of Rick Danko's March 1st, 1978 solo show at the Roxy, performing Stage Fright, The Shape I'm In, and The Wait for an encore. This would be the last time all 5 musicians would perform together.
Wow. I thought it was interesting, too, that you mentioned that it was, and I read that, it was a 3 LP set of music, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot.
You think there's probably more music on that LP set than maybe what we saw.
Or actually, there is the recordings of the interviews and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have music and speaking. We don't own those 3 LP sets. But that would, likely be more music, but probably it is all those commentaries, all those words, all the interviews.
So what's interesting, too, is that the band resumed touring in 1983 without Robbie Robertson, who had found success with a solo career and as a Hollywood music producer. Now, I know he produced music for Martin Scorsese, like Raging Bull.
That's right. He went on to produce a lot with Scorsese.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of sad because after a performance in Winter Park, Florida on March 4th, 1986, Manuel committed suicide. He was 42, and he did that in his motel room. Mm-hmm. He suffered many years from alcoholism and drug addiction. He had been clean and sober for several years, beginning in 1978, but he began drinking and using drugs again in 1984.
Yeah, the life of a rock and roll star.
I don't know when the band broke up, but maybe soon after that.
Yeah. I'm just going to add this. I think it would be a different picture if they were the Honkies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it was Bob Dylan and the Honkies, and then they went on to be the Honkies, it would be the Honkies.
I think it was one of those groups that were popular for a certain period of time. like Three Dog Night, which you may or may not still hear on the radio.
Right.
You very rarely hear the band, even on rock stations. We have one here, I think it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. They've been
classic rock, right?
They've been playing the same music, same songs for like 30 years.
Right.
Years.
I moved out of state for 25 years, Jim. I come back and come into the Lehigh Valley and hear the same songs. Seriously, same exact songs.
Yeah, you can actually place bets on who they're going to play next. A lot of people do that. Is it going to be Led Zeppelin or AC/DC?
ZZ Top.
Yeah. And they'll throw in...
the Scorpions. Or do they not do that anymore? Maybe not.
I mean, they'll throw in... I heard Tesla.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the cars. I don't think it's the electric cars or anything.
I heard them play Tesla's Sign, which is a cover song. I'm like, why? But thank you, everyone, for listening today.
Thank you.
So remember, turn off that TV.
Turn up the music.
You've been listening to No Good Music, intro and exit music by the band 99%. Today's show is produced and edited by Rob J. Lilly and recorded at the Did You Say 7 Studios in Washington, New Jersey. You can find No Good Music on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, and almost anywhere you listen to podcasts.